Hello everyone, Austin here. The other day I decided to watch the movie Sling Blade, and the Miramax intro came on, and I realized, hey, I forgot that I love that Miramax logo. It kind of put me a sense of comfort when the intro came by, and it made me feel like I was at home. I mean, yeah, I was at home watching the movie, but it put me in another home, like something like Hogwarts. I swear I don't live underneath the stairs of the Dursleys, but instead a home from like the 90s and the early 2000s, or personally my home from that era. So I felt the need, what every YouTuber I guess does, and make a tier list out of all these movie intro studio logos. These little clips that you see right before the movie is the company's way of saying, hey, to the viewer, come on in, we're going to a whole nother realm today. We're going to go to Mordor, we're going to go to Hogwarts, we're going to go to Tatooine, and sometimes something as simple, if you don't like fantasy stuff, something as simple as like a football field or Vietnam, and I guess that's really simple, but still. Now feel free to disagree with my list because you have other thoughts and feelings than I do, and honestly, that's what makes you human, and that's what makes you beautiful. So let's strap in and let me rank every one that I can think of at the moment. Because if you can't tell, I watch a lot of movies. And you know how I know that? Because I have a little movie thing right there from Hobby Lobby that I decided to spend money on, a little movie night sign. And get the whole movie rack and everything. So it proves I'm an expert, I guess. Or I just waste a lot of time watching movies. So we're going to start this one off with Universal. Universal is a beauty. It's a classic. That defines Hollywood. I mean, there's even Universal Park in California and Florida. So, I think the new one looks pretty, and you have the older ones that look okay. But me personally, I like the vintage look of the black and white one. I mean, it was in older movies, but then once in a while, a director for the studio will throw in the black and white one. For instance, I remember the Child's Play 2 decided to throw that in there. And if I remember correctly, Peter Jackson, when he remade King Kong, he threw the old black and white one in there with the plane. So this one, it's a classic. Is it the best, though? I don't know. It looks pretty basic. You can see all the color lights. You know what? I think that's appropriate. I think I'm going to put that in A. Alright, the next one, you got another classic. You got 20th Century Fox. Now, 20th Century Fox, in case you guys didn't know, I am a Simpsons simp, and I can't think of much of the movies. I mean, I know I've seen plenty of them. I think Planet of the Apes in that series. But the 20th Century Fox does give you that Hollywood vibe of it being in California and everything. But is it amazing? I don't know. I personally prefer the Ralph Wiggum from the Simpsons movie. That one was beautiful. I'm gonna give it a B. It's nothing too crazy, but I do like it personally. But it's not one of my favorites. Next up, we have another big one, big dog. We have Warner Bros. And you know what's something funny about the Warner Bros. Logo that cracks me up that I just now noticed while making this? Is that it kind of looks like the Scooby-Doo collar. And it's a brown and blue is kind of, or bronze and blue, I should say, is kind of a weird color. But I do love at the beginning, it always shows you that little hint of the studio. You know, it starts off with that cozy piano, and but Warner Bros, you kind of start this, and it's good for kids movies in the 80s and 90s. Troll in Central Park, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, the Batman series, and my personal favorite, the Iron Giant. But of course, one of the biggest things known is for Looney Tunes. And actually, personally, I do like that little hint of the Bugs Bunny in his tuxedo. So I think we're gonna put Warner Bros. At a B. It's a solid. It can't go too low. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bump that up to an A. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, we're going to move that one to an A. Alright, next up we have Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, or also known as MGM. And now, I think for 50 years, maybe even longer probably, every single time they've changed that logo, they've always strapped down a line just to film that. And I think that's pretty messed up. So you guys are just nothing. I like your movies, but we're talking about the intros themselves, that's going to be a fat F. There's no excuse for doing that for as long as they did. Now, they easily could have just animated it. I know recently they've been using CGI for it, I believe. But there's no excuse why they can't do any kind of cartoon animation or anything for like that. But, however, they have, to prove that they could have done it, was that they did it for Tom and Jerry. I love that parody. That's why this is getting its own ranking. I think it's a funny parody. It just shows you don't need to strap down a lion to be able to do an intro. Especially at this time. This was probably, what, the 50s? Maybe the 60s? So, I think it's a funny parody. I'm going to put this at a B. Alright, now I know there's a lot of people that love them some Disney. You know what? And, like, I think this one goes the same thing for Universal. The recent one is pretty. There's no doubt about it. You got the different... It seems like it's dusk. You got a nice hint of blue and pink skies, and the water reflection is very pretty. You can't go wrong with it. But as for my personal taste, I don't know. It does give a little bit of a fantasy vibe. I kind of don't feel like I'm at a castle. I feel more like I'm at a park, like an amusement park. So, unless of a movie studio, I feel like it's a park first and then an actual movie studio. So I'm going to put that one as a C. But that's not the only Disney one I'm going to be putting on this list. Because we're talking about early 2000s and 90s. So you were more likely watching Disney on a VHS tape. So, the 90s VHS Walt Disney intro is beautiful. There is no other intro that's going to give you more 90s nostalgia for those kids, for the Gen X and maybe Gen X parents at the time, but mostly the millennial kids, and possibly even the touch of the Gen Z that got a hint of that little VHS hit in the early 2000s. There's nothing that's going to give you the most nostalgia than this. And, I mean, it starts off, you got a beautiful orchestra, and you just see the castle form. But the thing that really gets me is the weird tone at the end of it. I can't even describe what was used to make that sound. And, so... that is going to S tier, definitely. I'm surprised a rapper has not sampled that little gimmicky sound at the end. Also, speaking of early 2000s kids movies, we got the DreamWorks. Now, DreamWorks was kind of the Pepsi to Walt Disney's Coke, with Steven Spielberg, I believe, co-creating it. I always liked the intro to DreamWorks. I think they got with the thing with balloons and then it being different colors, but there's nothing wrong with the actual classic. I think the kid is a little mysterious. I think we need some answers about him. I think the kid that's fishing on this moon needs his own movie, and I'm surprised they haven't already. I feel like there's a backstory we just don't know about. I do love the music, the little banjo or flute that plays in the beginning. This is definitely going A tier, but I don't know S tier. Alright, so now we have the Marvel Studios. Now, I know Marvel is owned by Disney, but I think there's a thing about these logos intros. It's kind of putting a name to themselves. You're going to look at the 20th Century Fox logo, the Universal logo, and then you're going to think of like a series of movies. Like just this open band. Marvel, it's kind of more of a niche. And the thing about Marvel is that right now, it's always new. It's like we're waiting for the next new thing. But when you look at Universal, Fox, and Warner Bros., it's like this whole line of history of just movies and classics. Now, the Marvel Studio is pretty much made classics as it goes, but we don't feel that age of time just yet. But I think 50 years from now, it's going to feel like that old classic feel out of this recent Marvel universe. So I think... not right now, but in the future, it'll set itself as the rest with the big dogs. So I always loved that comic book pages flipping through. That was always cool. It kind of was like, hey, the source material are in comic books. You should probably read some of these. And which I think if you're watching them, if you really love them, you probably should. So I respect that. I'm going to put that maybe at a C. Only because I was looking at the Tom and Jerry one. And it's not bad, but I think it's just a time thing. It's kind of a newer one. Alright, so next up we have Orion Pictures. I think Orion is owned by MGM, but we're going by the logos, not as much by the companies. Or the intros, I mean. And so Orion, I love the space feel. It's got that film grain to it. And Orion, you always know there's something about it that it's going to be an 80s classic. So you got stuff like RoboCop, Caddyshack, Platoon. You just got an 80s feel when you open it up. I mean, they used it on the recent Child's Play remake, and then I just felt like we were in some good. But it's not high on the list. It's kind of like there's not a whole lot of movies, I feel like, or classics that are tied to it. A little bit, but not like a whole lot to make itself well known. So I think we're just going to put it at a B. Alright, TriStar. TriStar is weird. I think TriStar is mixed with Columbia. And to do Columbia as its own thing, because I think I kind of forgot about it until right now. I think they're the same company. Columbia Pictures has a lot of history. Way back to RKO. RKO, I didn't put on this list, but we can just put it as a C. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a Katharine Hepburn movie. You're going to get Citizen Kane, King Kong. You're going to get some monumental ones. But as for the intro itself, it's okay. I don't want to put it on the list, because I feel like maybe not a whole lot of people will recognize it. But TriStar is something that's kind of familiar. I don't think they've been doing anything recently. If so, I think they're owned by Sony. But I think we're going to put it at a D, because honestly, Joe Swanson has proved to do it better. There's not a whole lot of story behind the Pegasus. Alright, so speaking of Sony, Sony, it's kind of boring. I think there's one that starts out with like a cloud of smoke, and it's got some beautiful music, but it seems like every time that I put a movie in or start something that's Sony Pictures, it's a little too obnoxious. I know that this can happen to any of them. Like the Warner Bros. Starts out with a soft piano and gets kind of loud, but at least you're kind of set up for it. But Sony just starts off with a storm, and then it gets higher. I don't know. I think Sony should be at a D, to be honest. There's nothing special about it. This proves that this company started out doing stereo and music and radio, because they really didn't give much of a visual for their logo. It was more focused about the sound. Blumhouse. So Blumhouse has been a recent studio, I believe. Usually you kind of know you're going to watch a spooky modern horror film. What do you watch? Turn this on. So you do know what you're getting when you start this. And it almost seems like its own movie. You can almost mistake it as, oh shit, the movie already started. Because you get this chair thrown around, you get this little girl that's creepy. And honestly, it's kind of like the rated R horror version of the DreamWorks intro, where it seems like it's its own movie and it has a character like that needs a background story. Here's the thing, it doesn't look like it would age well. Probably in the next 20 years, it would at least go through a change, maybe two. So as for this, I'm just going to keep it safe with a C. Because I do like it, you do know what you're going into, and it just doesn't seem like it'll be stand against time. New World Pictures. Now, I don't know if New World Pictures are still making films, but it does give me that 80s VHS feel to it. So, but there's something about it that just reminds me of the Flint, Michigan Citizen Bank logo, and it just seems unoriginal. This is going probably right down fat bottom with the E. At least it didn't do animal cruelty like MGM. Now, talking about how this video started, Miramax Films. I love the soft piano, and this actually, we're talking about 90s and 2000s nostalgia. And I know probably a lot of older people will probably get mad, but I'm trying to talk about some of the older ones, because cinema didn't just start in the 90s. But if you're looking for a 90s vibe, Miramax is more likely your good bet. Because we're talking about Kevin Smith movies, we're talking about Good Will Hunting, which is like about that same era, and I think some Tarantino movies. So you're definitely gonna hit right up that alley of '90s adult movies. Just absolute knockouts during that time. And this definitely gives it that feel. Between, like, it's almost like Friends, like it's in New York, or that New England vibe. So I'm definitely going to put this at an A, without a doubt. Alright, one that I think goes hand in hand with Miramax is New Line Cinema. And, you know, New Line Cinema, it's nothing that has lasted as long as Universal, 20th Century Fox, and Warner Bros. and MGM. It hasn't lasted that long, but it's still been old enough. It's still been probably, I don't know, but I know at least since there's a couple 80s movies at least. It has such great music, and it just has that film look to it. I don't get what that square is, but it has like the film edge onto it, and it almost seems basic, but it's almost like that's all you need. And the more I watch it, the more I fall in love with it, and the music is just mwah. It just feels like a sense of falling, and then it just hits comfort. So I might put this at an S, guys. I don't think I expected it to, but the more I think about it, the more I love it. So I just don't know how I feel seeing it above such monumental studios. But we're talking about the logos here. We're talking about the intros. And I feel comforted. I feel very comforted when the New Line Cinema intro comes in. Lionsgate is kind of weird, because Lionsgate, you had the original one with the lion on the side, but then they somehow turned it into like this, trying to get into heaven with these gears and mechanisms and this door opening. It's weird. I don't know how I feel about it. The only movies I can really attach to this are the Saw movies, so the gears kind of make sense for some kind of jigsaw mechanism. But there's nothing special about it. It almost seems like it could be a game intro unless it's a movie intro. I think I am going to put this at a D. Trimark. I don't even know what to do about this. It's just a flash of a lion on a triangle, but the color texture gives it like a weird 90s yuppie look to it, like the American Psycho with Christian Bale. So I don't know if I really like this one, to be honest with you guys. I couldn't name you a whole lot of Trimark movies, but it seems like it would be some weird low budget VHS you get at a yard sale. So I'm going to put this one at D as well. It's not too terrible. I feel a little harsh on it, but there's not much to really critique about it. Alright, next up we have Touchstone Films. I couldn't really name you a whole lot of Touchstone Films, but there is Touchstone Television, which is the same logo, but I think the only thing is that the movie has the light go through the touchstone, and it flashes a light, no sound, which is kind of a downgrade. But with the television one, you have the piano, the falling piano to go with it. And every time I hear that and see that, I think of Home Improvement, which is one of the biggest 90s TV shows. So I think we're going to put that, well, we're talking about films, kind of basic. I think we're going to put it at C. I do like that logo. I cannot explain what it is, but there's a little flash of light. There's other ones where it's more three-dimensional, but I don't know. I kind of like the simplicity of that one. Castle Rock. Just like Blumhouse, you almost know what you're going to get out of Castle Rock. More likely going to be either a romantic lake house movie, or it's going to be a more likely a Stephen King story, because Stephen King obviously makes it pretty clear that he lives in Maine. So I think you pretty much know you're going to go into a horror movie. I don't know, it's kind of 50-50, and it is the recent ones is really pretty. I think it was more of a silhouette in the 90s version of this. I don't know if the movies are that good, but the logo itself in the intro is pretty comforting. I think I do want to put this at a B. It looks like a beautiful painting. Alright, Spyglass Media Group. This one was always weird to me. Why is the guy just standing on water? Why is it a spyglass? And what is he even looking at? It raises questions. I'm more focused on that than when the movie starts. I think we're gonna put that one at a D. It's not bad, it's just weird. And I think one that goes hand in hand with that one is the Lakeshore one. This is one that I forget about, so this is not going to make it high on the list. I forget about it, it's not really memorable, but it's like, that's another weird one where it's like, is that what the Spyglass guy is looking at? Because it almost looks like they're at the same lake. I don't know if these are the same studios. But is he just looking at that kid jump in the water? And the kid just jumps and then he doesn't land in the water. He just freezes right there. And it's like, kind of ends like one of those cheesy 80s movies where people just jump in the air and then the movie's over. That one really puzzles me. This is, you know what, just to make him look like at him, I'm just going to put that at D right next to him. I think that's all that I have. I didn't really think what the end result was going to be. I thought of all the studios and then my opinions on them. But when I actually look at the tier list, I think this is appropriate. I feel like I might get some heat for the MGM, but that's a personal thing. I mean, it's an iconic logo, but just knowing that a lion is tied up. And then not to mention, I might get a little heat for the flack for the Walt Disney one, but I think I get everybody's respect for the 90s VHS one. If I were to make a change, I might put the Marvel Studio one at a B. It's nothing about the movies, guys. It's about the intro itself. And I do like that comic book panel flash. So, you know what, to make this better, I think I will put the Marvel Studio one at a B. And then we're just going to shift this. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's pretty appropriate. So, I was realizing one thing while I was editing, and that's I forgot Paramount. So Paramount, I'm just going to throw this up real quick. I think it's a memorable intro, but it's very basic. There's usually no music, and it's just very simple, and it's just almost the logo itself. The only thing crazy that it's done recently is that it added the stars just floating in, and that's about it. So it's average. I'm just going to give it a basic C. So I think that about does it for me today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the tier list. Let me know down in the comments below what you personally would agree or disagree with me on this tier list, or even reply to me your own personal tier list. Feel free to like and subscribe. There's plenty of other random video projects that I have in the channel. The link is down below. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.